All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June edition of the Horror Writers Association Roundtable. Today we have our guest co-host, John Skipp, Chloe Okuma. Am I saying that correctly? Okuna?
Oh, Okuno.
Okuno.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry, I couldn't see it. It was so small. I'm, of course, your moderator, Sunny Brock. And today we're talking about women in horror film. We have John has been working with a film festival and some interesting things going on there in Hollywood. John, you want to talk a little bit about what you've been up to?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been doing very little except for watching these great people do this. But it's Etheria Film Festival. Is my voice weird, or I sound okay?
Now it's okay. For a second there, it was kind of breaking up. I don't know if you got it.
Yeah, it was weird. Okay, so basically, there's this great film festival called the Etheria Film Festival. It is devoted to showing the work of female filmmakers making horror, suspense, thrillers, science fiction, fantasy, and it's been this great thing that I've been involved with for the last 3 years as a judge. For some reason, they asked me if I would come in, and because they know that I'm incredibly supportive of this notion. When Sunny asked me if I would be on the show, I said, well, it's the day after Etheria. Can we talk about that? Because that seems like a really good thing to talk about. And the answer was yes. And so I'm hoping one or two of the other filmmakers show up, but Chloe's here, and Chloe's film won the audience award last night and totally blew the fucking roof off. It was so much fun. It's a really, really, really great film. And every single one of the films last night was just amazing, and that's why I'm so excited to talk about it. It just seemed like an opportunity for a good thing to do.
Well, congratulations, Chloe.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, tell us about your film. Tell us about your film.
You're next to me.
Yay!
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was such a great night. I was really just blown away by the quality of films that we saw. I mean, we've screened at a bunch of different festivals, and it's usually a mixed bag, some stronger than others. But last night, just start to finish, it was really stressful in the best way. Films, yeah, I mean, films that just built tension. Each one was really unique too. I mean, you really got like a full flavor across the genre spectrum. And I mean, it was such a blast. I loved it. And the audience was incredible. They were just so, like, you can tell right away, I feel like. You walk into a festival and you can tell right away what kind of audience it is. And last night the audience was just into it from moment one. It was great.
It's true.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your film. What's it about, and why do you think the audience responded to it?
Okay, so Slut is a horror thriller about this 16-year-old girl who is growing up in Texas in the late 70s, early 80s, depending on how you want to look at it. And she's a bit of an outcast and a loner. She's got the big, like, Coke bottle glasses. So she is hanging out at a roller rink one night, and she meets this handsome, charismatic, older stranger. And she connects with him right away, which is rare for her because she doesn't have a lot of friends. She's, has a little crush on him. But then, as it turns out, he is a murderous serial killer, and he preys on young women who he views as promiscuous. And I think there was a second part to your question, but I forget what it was.
Why did the audience
Sorry?
Why did the audience respond so well? Was the second part of the question?
Oh,
I know I could answer that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's like, I think it plays well on a big screen, and it plays well to an audience. It's one of those movies that really feeds off the energy of a crowd, because it was designed to sort of, have a lot of twists and turns, and to kind of lead the expectations one way and then turn it around. And then, of course, it was more than anything, I think it was designed to, get you on the side of our young heroine and see her journey from being this like weak, insecure girl, and seeing how she sort of transforms throughout the film. So by the time we get to the climactic scene, I mean, spoil it, it's a short film, but I won't spoil it. But by the time we get to the climactic scene, the best reaction ever would be for people to be like, fuck yeah. And I think they did that last night, which is really cool.
The audience went off. I think you had by far the loudest yelling and whooping at the end of the film. And I mean, there was a lot to respond to with all 6 of them. Some of them were really sad and heartbreaking. El Gigante, Gigi's was totally fucked up. I mean, a lot of the people in the audience were. It's like the Tex-Mex Chainsaw Massacre,
Yeah.
and the brutality was just staggering. And the audience was kind of they were clapping, but they were almost afraid to, like it implicated them in the horrible sin of watching it. But I mean, it totally kicked ass. There were some real crowd pleasers, but yours was the crowd pleasingest because our girl wins. And she totally does, and she earns it. And the twist is so neat. It's one of like 4 twists in a row that keep you guessing. And I loved when you were talking at the end of the Q&A, and they asked who your influences were, and you were saying, you were looking at a lot of 70s films, and then you mentioned Blood Simple, because there are a couple moves. There's one move in particular involving a rope and a hole in the floor that is so Blood Simple in the very best way, and that is where it's not just clever plotting, but it's really strong directing technique, really great visual sleight of hand that totally pulled everybody in, and the way it was cut, the whole room just went nuts. The room went nuts, and it was really fun. I was talking with Elric Kane, who runs Jump Cut Cafe here in town. Great guy, and he was saying it was his second favorite film of any films this year. He was just kind of really like jazzed about it, and it was really fun. But that's why the audience responded, because you really rooted for this girl, and everything just keeps getting twistier and cooler.
It does, yeah. I mean, Elric was great. He was telling me about a movie at the Cine Family called Angst that I'm definitely going to go to now, because it sounds crazy. But yeah, I mean, Blood Simple, if you're going to steal from the best, that's what I say. And I absolutely love that movie. I love just the Coens' portrayal of Texas, and they have that whole neo-noir thing in that one. And it's just got this, this kind of salty, dirty, pulpy flavor that only they can really pull off. And tonally, that's somewhat what we were going for. We wanted that mix of dark humor, and have it to be a coming-of-age story, but also still have it be a horror thriller, and just sort of tying all that together and making it seem natural, not like it was we were forcing it at any one moment. And I think that was the biggest challenge, honestly, making the movie, and that was especially the biggest challenge in post-production, finding that balance, especially when it came to score and pacing. That was once we found that, it all clicked together. But before then, it was really tough. It was a real challenge. Yeah, I know.
That's cool. So, can you talk, John, a little bit about the film festival and how it came to be and how you got involved?
Well, there used to be a festival called the Viscera Film Festival. It was purely women in horror directing, and the minute I heard about it, I wanted to know about it, and went and met the people, and they saw how enthusiastic I was and how just generally supportive of women in the arts in general, with publishing and so forth. And they asked me if I would be a judge the next year, and I said, of course. So yeah, Pippi says I'm honorary vagina, and which is a title I wear with pride. And then when Viscera split up, Pippi and Heidi hung together and created Etheria and spread out across broader genres, which has incidentally made the judging so much harder because we've got this insane coming of age slash serial killer, yeah, basically Little Red Riding Hood in a weird sense, modern Little Red Riding Hood kind of affair. Do you ever see Freeway, the Matthew Bright thing with Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland?
Okay, I'm gonna be totally honest. I saw the first half of it. I didn't finish it. It's not because I didn't like it. I think it was when I was making Slut, and everyone said you have to see Freeway because it's
shit.
Take off of Little Red Riding Hood. So I started to watch it, but then I didn't want to finish because I was doing this dumb filmmaker thing where I was like, I don't want this to influence me too much because it is thematically kind of similar, So I plan on going back and watching the whole thing.
It's really great. And what I didn't even think about this until just now, but I would have done the same thing. When I was writing The Emerald Burrito of Oz, people were trying to get me to read Wicked and other weird subversive takes on The Wizard of Oz, and I'm like, I can't. I need to keep my brain clear of my stuff so that I'm not ripping off their stuff or feeling unduly influenced in ways that I don't want to at a time when I'm really trying to think. So I totally get it. But
yeah.
I'd go see it now because it's really great.
Yeah, no, I'm going to watch it now. I mean, I love the concept, and I love just Reese Witherspoon. From what I saw in that movie, I just loved her, her portrayal of this white trash girl. It was great.
Basically, it's Little Red Riding Hood with crack whores and serial killers.
Yeah.
And it's really swell. But anyway, so Sonia, I'm sorry, I digressed. Over the last several years, the Etheria Festival has really been honing itself to be not just an opportunity for women to show their films, but to really showcase extraordinary ones. So, like this year, they had, I think, 590 people apply to be in the festival, not counting the hundreds of men who didn't bother to read the explanation and sent their films anyway. And out of that, 590, they picked 6. I think that says a lot.
6.
Yeah. 6.
That's a lot of submissions. A lot.
Yeah, but the thing was that every single one of them was extraordinary. The first one, which was called Sheila Scorn, directed by, what was her name? Gasparo. This had a real Kill Bill, neon-infused, smart-ass woman getting vengeance angle to it. It was really jazzily directed. Had a lot of zazz to it. It kicked ass really, really hard. And so for anybody just walking in the door to think that that women weren't going to be able to handle fight scenes, that was immediately taken care of in the first 10 minutes of the festival. Then the second one was called She Venge by Amber Benson, who you may remember from Buffy the Vampire Slayer as somebody we all love. And she directed this really beautiful comedy in which these 3 girlfriends are sitting there on the bed, drinking wine, doing their nails, and discussing the horrible vengeance they each want to reap on their awful boyfriends. And it was really fun because 1/3 of it was in a stylized, Sin City sort of black and white meets color saturated tone. The second one looked like an episode of Mad Men, and the third one looked like a Roger Corman film. And so stylistically, it was really, really fun. Then Gigi did El Gigante, which again was the Tex-Mex Chainsaw Massacre and just this really brutal hardcore horror thing. And just really intense and meat-packed. And this was based on Shane Mackenzie's novel Muerte con Carne, which means death with meat. And yeah, it's really good. Then there was Godel Incomplete by a woman named Martha Godard. And this was beautiful Australian science fiction story about time travel and subatomic particle theory, and it was a love story, and it was a tragedy, and it was just that was the one where I actually had tears running down my face at the end of it. And then De Noche de Pronto by Arantxa Echeverria from Spain was this insanely dialed Spanish thriller with a woman in her apartment who gets a knock on the door from a guy who claims to be her upstairs neighbor who's been locked out and somebody's broken into his apartment. And the tension and the minute detail of the filming of this thing, the way it was shot, was just nuts. I mean, it was so tense and it was so meticulously dialed. It was like a thriller version of Amelie, just kind of stylistically and the way the camera moved and everything. And that was something that actually wound up getting the jury prize. And then Slut came on and totally stole the audience. So that was how that went down. And earlier in the day, a woman named Ursula Dabrowsky from Australia also brought in a feature. It was the one feature we showed called Inner Demon, and it was claustrophobic and intense and just riveting, and I really, really liked it a lot. And then Axel Caroline, one of my teammates on Tales of Halloween, snuck in her short from Tales of Halloween, which was really cool. And another woman named Karen Gillam showed a movie called Coward, and we wish she would have been there, but somebody in the UK wanted to fly her out and do business with her, and so we lost her at the last minute. So a pretty action-packed day, and that's my book report.
Good job. We can transcribe this all and you can print it.
I'm
sure. So, Chloe, why don't you I'm curious as to your involvement throughout the whole process of making the film. Did you write the script as well? Did you collaborate? Were you involved in the editing?
Yeah, I wrote the script. It was my thesis film at AFI, so you have like a green light process where you submit an early draft, and the powers that be will accept it to go forward to production or not, and we got accepted. So then we team up with people from other disciplines at AFI. So I was in the directing discipline. I teamed up with a producer, editor, cinematographer, production designer, and we formed like the core team. And yeah, I mean, we had a good amount of pre-production on this. We were responsible for raising the money, friends and family. That was probably actually one of the hardest parts of the whole thing. Just asking people for money is never easy exactly, but you have to do it. Yeah, and then, I mean, it was great. It was actually a lot of people I hadn't worked with before. I'd worked with my producer on a previous short film, and she's incredible, Lisa Golovin. And yeah, I mean, I was as involved, I was very involved in every step of the way, really, certainly editing.
You're the director. A lot of people don't understand what directors do. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so, man. My parents ask me that, and I have a hard time telling them what directors do. I mean, essentially, I feel like we're responsible for having a vision, whether it's a script that we write or or somebody else's script that we're interpreting, and then communicating that vision to everybody that you're working with in a way that you can, translate it to screen. So I think, honestly, I feel like just having the focus and courage of conviction to follow through with what you see, even while you're getting all this other input from other people, which you have to listen to, because it's not like, you can just make a movie by yourself. Everybody, you're working with experts in their own field who bring their own, expertise to the table. So it's like collaborating and listening to them, but also knowing when to say no. and when to say yes. So it's just kind of, I feel like you're guiding the whole project, and you have to, yeah, you have to have the courage of your conviction. And from like a, like a nuts and bolts kind of standpoint, it's like, talking to my DP about the visual language of the movie, watching references together. Like as a team, we sat down and we watched Carrie really early on, just to kind of get like the flavor and the coming of age. With my production designer, we would like look at hundreds of reference images of old farmhouses, trying to figure out like what it would look like inside the house, and also just the geography of the house, because with the, I don't want to spoil it, but with the fight scene at the end, like getting that sort of geography right was really crucial. So it's really I think a director's job is to talk to every single person involved in the movie, and to kind of get them on board what you want the movie to be. And you're never done. That's the crazy thing. I feel like I compare it to giving birth. Like you have the gestation period, and then once you give birth to the movie, like this sounds so new agey, but it's not. Like once you give birth to the movie, and it's like you're like in the editing process, you're still responsible for this thing, and you have to like see it through to the very end, even if you've given birth to this like hideous monster that you hate. A lot of times as a filmmaker, when you see like the first cut, you're like, God, what did I create? It's horrible. But then you mold it and you get it back to where you wanted it to be in the first place. And yeah, you're like a parent. You just have to see it through, the good and the bad, and just love it unconditionally, and then let it go out into the world as we have to.
I want to ask, working with the actors, because you got these amazing performances out of these people, particularly your main girl, but everybody's really, really good, down to Grandma. Yeah, do you want to just talk? I mean, it's one thing to write a character. It's another thing to successfully collaborate with another human being to become that character. And I think that's one of the great skills that a director needs. And you totally had it. So you want to talk about that, like how you picked your people and knew they were right, and what you did with them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously our cast was incredible. Molly McIntyre, the girl who played Maddie, she came in, I think she was literally the first girl I saw audition. And she came in and she just killed it. And she's from Texas. She is kind of that character. She's a sweet Texas girl, and she just inhabited it right away. And she's just a very sharp professional actor, so she just kind of got the rhythm of the screenplay and the language. She kind of understood the tone, weirdly. Like actors come in, they'll audition in a certain way, and you can tell either they kind of they get it, they see the kind of movie you want to make, or they don't. And she got it right away. And same thing with James, really. Like he walked in, the guy who played the serial killer, the stranger. James Gallo walked in, and the way it was written, he's a lot younger than the person I initially thought I would cast. I thought it would be like an older guy, like kind of ruggedly handsome. James looks like, I think the way my producer described it was, he looks like your friendly neighbor or something, or like your brother's best friend. He's kind of unsuspecting, and like he looks like a nice guy.
He's got a baby face.
He's got a baby face, yeah, exactly. But then he's so good at being really creepy.
Oh, yeah.
So on set, really, like, they already had it, and it was just about, pushing them in certain moments, kind of reminding them of, just, like, reminding them of what had previously happened if they were emotionally not in the right place. Really just tweaking it so that we could, the performances could build by the time we got to the edit room. But yeah, I mean, they were both just, if you cast right, I feel like that's 95% of the job done.
Yep.
So, yeah, we're very lucky to find them. And Sally Kirkland was our grandma, and yeah, Sally Kirkland.
Wow.
She was great. I mean, obviously, from the beginning, Grandma was a non-speaking role. So when she expressed interest, I was like, that's amazing, that's great. I'm really surprised that you want to do that. But she saw like she's, you know, she just loves acting. She loves to be on set, and she saw that she could, even with a non-speaking role, she could play with the character, and she was fantastic.
Yeah. I would like to point out for people who don't know this that AFI means American Film Institute.
Oh, yes.
Just in case you guys didn't know that. And it's a venerable institution.
Thanks for the clarification. Yeah. And that brings me to another question. So what's next for Slut? Do you have distribution? Are you looking for distribution?
We are. So we can't actually. There's some rule, AFI rule, where I think we have to be on a festival run for like 18 months before we can seek distribution. But we're getting there now. So I mean, we're definitely interested. We haven't really approached anyone or had anyone approach us. But once we get to the end of our run, absolutely, I'd love it to. I'd love it to be able to reach as many people as possible.
I wonder, because it's tough to find actual paying markets for short films, except for in the context of anthologies, and it makes me wonder if Etheria has ever thought about trying to package an anthology of great films or something. I always wonder how to do it. When I make a short film, I'm sitting there going, now where can I put this aside from YouTube where people might really enjoy it? And yeah, but I think that as more models are coming together, as more networks are streaming, and yeah, I mean, we are not necessarily constrained by feature lengths for anything except for theatrical releases at this point. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the industry shapes itself out. But I'm seeing so many great short films that I want fucking everyone to see them. So
I feel like that's an awesome idea. Like, I hadn't really thought of that before. But you're right, because people don't really, it's not often that I seek out a short film unless it's something I heard about in the festival. So if you just distribute a short, there's not much of a market for that. I think that's brilliant. I would love to do some sort of compilation, be part of that. I think that would be a great way to get people more interested.
I agree with that.
Yeah, it is good. I know the Lovecraft Film Festival has a couple of those anthology DVDs we're used to, and those seem pretty popular. I mean, even if it's a small market for those, but it seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Film lovers love film. And are always kind of trying to figure out what the next thing that they really want to see is. I know I am, and yeah, so I'm always trying to scheme together what the next way to make that happen would be, and that's one of the best ideas I've had.
Oh, I think that's. We should do it. I'm going to talk to her and learn how to do this.
Here.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks. I'm trying. Yeah, I really wish the other kids would have shown up because they're so good.
We can talk about Inner Demon. Can I just say for the record, Inner Demon was amazing.
Wasn't it?
I loved it.
Me too.
It was incredible. And just how she shot it, I was in awe because you spend so much time just in a closet with her actress, who also, by the way, was incredible.
Absolutely, 15-year-old girl. That had never acted in a film before, and they found her through some sort of weird casting in whatever territory of Australia they were in. Yeah, I got to talk with her a little bit, not the actress, but Ursula, the director. Evidently, well, the thing about it is, the story is there's a 15-year-old girl who's babysitting her 8-year-old little sister, and then a couple of sick fucks break into the house and kidnap them. And she wakes up, the 15-year-old wakes up in the trunk, manages to escape, and spends the whole rest of the movie either running from these people or hiding in a house that then turns out to be the house that these people live in. And she's hiding in a closet, watching through a hole in the door all the shit that goes on outside, and has no idea for the majority of the film what happened to her little sister, who at the very beginning she swore she would never let anything happen to. So there's this immense sense of claustrophobia and sustained dread, punctuated by moments of either beauty or extreme insanity and unbelievable violence. And yeah, it had a lot of muscle to it. It also had a lot of long takes of people just inside their fear, just trying to get their breathing under control and stuff. So in that sense, it had a real kind of verite feel to it. It was awesome. It was really awesome. And the way that the opening credits were these impressionistic details of like an eye peeking through a hole and blood hitting a curtain and a few other things, and you're like, I don't know what this means, but this is really great. And then about 2/3 of the way through the movie, you go, oh no, that's where the blood hit the curtain. And so it was really neatly structured. It was great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I loved it too because like when I read the summary and when the movie gets going, you think like, okay, these two sick fucks are going to kidnap this girl and it's going to turn into them like torturing her in their barn. That would be the expected, I think, recently, that would be like the expected way the story would go. But then it doesn't really go that way at all. It just, and, it's more about, like you said, her living inside of her terror and just watching all this unfold. And in some ways it's even more fucked up because like you're just literally with her watching through this little hole in the closet and you feel like you're in that closet with her. I loved it. It was so great.
It should also be mentioned that she's bleeding out, that she's not just sitting there, twiddling her thumbs in the closet. She's losing blood at an alarming rate.
Yeah, and stitching herself back up.
Oh man, yeah, stitching herself up with fish
fire.
Yeah, that's in the closet there with her.
Now I want to see this.
It's really good. It's really super good.
Yeah, it really is. Amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a few more minutes. We've had a few viewers, but no one's asked any questions. So if you're out there watching and you want to ask any questions of our panelists here, there's a Q&A. If you click on Q&A, you can type in a question and it'll come up. But since we don't have any questions right now, Chloe, do you want to talk a little bit about the film festival circuit in general? How many festivals have you done, and what do you feel is kind of the expectation for filmmakers today?
The expectation in terms of being in festivals, or just in
yeah, and being in festivals. I mean, I know that it's part of the process.
Yeah, we've been lucky. We've been in a lot. I think it's probably around like 14 or 15 now, I think. And I mean, we're in the case of Slut, it's really cool because we play at a lot of genre festivals, but we also have played in a lot of non-genre festivals, and I feel like it can play equally well in both audiences. Although genre audiences tend to be the most fun. And as far as expectations, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like the expectation, I might not be answering your question, but I feel like the expectation for all young filmmakers who are out of film school or who are just getting started is to go out and parlay whatever success you can find into making a feature. Because most of us aren't here to make short films, as fun as it is. We're here to make feature films. So that's what, actually it's not like we've been really hustling on the festival circuit. Only recently I went to a festival where they talked about, like social media awareness and how to organize like a Kickstarter campaign. And they had all these great ideas about like putting out like a mailing list and like signing everybody up at the festival on your email list, so then you could go reach out to those people and target them when you're trying to raise money for a project by a Kickstarter or whatever. We totally didn't do any of that, but it's okay because we've been getting to meet filmmakers. So yeah, I mean, right now it's all about, taking Slut as far as we can and playing at more festivals and reaching more people, and then, working on getting that feature film made. It's the same story for every filmmaker.
Indeed. Yeah, I hear you. my husband and I do documentaries, but they're genre-based. But we played genre and non-genre festivals. And you're right, it goes over both ways. But the genre people are way more fun. And there are definitely things you can do. I mean, we self-distribute because they're documentaries. But signing people up in the email list so you can sell them DVDs later has been a good strategy for us. And that's worked out well. And just networking and meeting people in the industry who you didn't think of working with before, who have contacts that they can introduce you to that may have distribution options. So we've picked up a lot of stores and catalogs and things from those.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, I mean, networking, like, it's like a word that people use a lot, and before, like, when people used to use that word and I was in film school or before, you know, I was kind of out in the world, I was just like, oh, networking, that sounds so terrible. Because I just have this vision of, like, being at some, like, horrible cocktail party and, like, awkwardly walking up to some stranger. But it's not. Networking is really, it's just, like, being at a festival and meeting the filmmakers and the people around you, and it's sort of a natural progression. You meet one person, you know, maybe through them you'll meet somebody else, and it's just sort of expanding, you know, the number of people, you know, in this business who love to do what you do, and, you know, who could help you, or you could help them, or I don't know, who would have some role in your career in the future, and you never know where that can come from. So.
Or you might just find like next to each other in a festival, enjoying somebody else's movie because you all just really love movies.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, like, it's just cool. I feel like especially the horror genre world, like, the fans are more passionate than they are in almost any, you know, like, genre space or any corner of the film-loving world. And just being there next to people who love the same things that you love, it's awesome. It's the funnest part of this whole thing.
Hear, hear.
Yeah.
Indeed. Let's hear it for the horror community.
Yeah.
They're nice.
Yay. Yes. And I will put in a plug now. I do represent the Horror Writers Association, so horror.org. If you are not a member and interested, if you go to horror.org, you can see more about how to join. We also have a Facebook page where you can communicate with the other members and learn about events. We also have the Bram Stoker Awards, if you're interested in those, which cover screenwriting as well as fiction and nonfiction, short stories. So, yeah, check it out. Be part of the community. It's always good to network and meet people and hear these things. Next month, we'll be doing the June Horror Writers Roundtable, the July. We have not set the topic yet, so I'm looking for some feedback on our Facebook page, and we will see you then. Do you guys have any last-minute comments or questions?
I would say that the majority of the Horror Writers Association are involved with fiction, and fiction is really hard to write, but it is largely a solitary affair. It's a lot less collaborative. It's usually, you know, you and your machine in a room together forever. But one of the things that, as I've been transitioning from a fiction-based life form to a film-based life form, is that, as Stephen King said way the hell back when The Shining got made into a film, it cost Stephen King $25 to write The Shining. It cost Kubrick $25 million to shoot it, and that differential is only sharper now, which means that I have an incredible appreciation for how hard it is to go out and ask for money to be able to go and shoot the next thing I want to do. And I think for every fiction writer who wants to break into film or wants to have one of their books turned into a film or one of their short stories or whatever, I think it's really important for those people to meet actual directors and actual filmmakers so that they know what the process is. I think it's also really good for filmmakers to meet novelists and short story writers who are doing incredibly great material, which may or may not be getting seen. This is a big part of why I wanted to have this conversation, and why when we do the World Horror Convention, I always try to host a film block and try to get filmmakers in so that writers and directors can meet each other. And yeah, just I think if writers, if every time a fiction writer had to wanted to write a short story, they had to raise $3,000, they would really think about it. It's just a little perspective I wanted to throw out.
That's awesome. You're right. But in this case, we should be crossing the streams, definitely.
Yeah. We kind of
All
need each other.
We totally do. All right, guys. I'm gonna close this up now. Thank you for everyone that watched, and thank you, Chloe and John, for being on. And hopefully, the other folks can watch us on YouTube. So I'll send out the YouTube links and post them to the horror.org site. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.